Welcome to the LFG Pats Pod with your hosts, Joe and Mike. Let's go!
All right, welcome into the LFG Pats Pod. This is episode 3, Mike, and oh boy, do we got a special one. We got Ex-Patriot Thomas Clayton on. Tom, welcome on. I just met you, like, I don't know, a few weeks ago. We were in the barbershop, and you guys were talking Patriots. I'm like, whoa, who is this guy? Hold on, wait a minute. I caught something in the air, so I appreciate you coming on, man.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on. It was a fast turnaround, too, so kudos to you.
That's crazy. That's so random. You guys just happened to strike up the conversation in the barber shop and culminated into this. That's freaking crazy. Thomas, let me ask you just real quick before we get into football. How did you end up landing in like the Rhode Island, the East Greenwich area? Was it professional or was it family?
Yeah. So I ended up in Rhode Island, post NFL. Prior to that, obviously I lived in Foxborough and even prior to that, lived in San Francisco. But the way I got to Rhode Island was through my business. So after I retired, I got into real estate development. And, I just kind of found my way into South County. A lot of people don't talk about the southern part of Rhode Island as much as they should in Massachusetts. So me, at that time, coming from Cali with the Niners and then coming to New England, I had no knowledge of anything, right, other than where I was. And then over time, I started to just kind of peer into what was happening in the southern parts of New England. And then I found the beaches. Then I found, like, obviously the city dynamics with Newport, Providence, obviously, and then some of the sub cities like East Greenwich, like we talked about before we went on air, and North Kingstown, a lot of the good ones. And I'm like, man, this is kind of underrated. I need to see what's going on. So then I look for a house to flip, because I was doing flips and spec builds at the time. It's like in, oh my goodness, maybe 2016. This is some time ago, over 10 years ago. And found a crib in an excellent location, right near the water, great access to downtown East Greenwich. And I got the house to flip, but long story short, my wife ended up liking it. So we pulled up and stayed here. And that's how I got to Rhode Island. It was through a project that I was going to sell, but ended up keeping, and then history was made.
Smart man. He saw the diamond in the rough. That
everybody else saw the world. Diamond in the rough.
That's how I feel. Rhode Island's got this little gem that you say, I'm from Rhode Island. They go, what, Long Island? Like New York?
No.
I'm like, no. Rhode Island. Come on, man. Respect it. Yeah. So, no, man, that's awesome. I love the story. Before we get into this podcast, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. Thomas and I already talked about some great stories he's had on the plane. Randy Moss, Wes Welker. We were talking all kinds of stuff. Steph Diggs. So we're going to get into that. But before we get into that, we have to get into Rhode Island Kitchen and Bar. It's our sponsor. Next Thursday night, the NFL draft. We're 1 week away, boys. Literally, like, exactly one week from now, maybe 1 week and an hour. Drafts will be going off. They'll announce the first pick. But we have all kinds of food, all kinds of apps. We have all kinds of giveaways. Fanatics has given us, they just shipped me probably $2,000 of merchandise for us. All the co-hosts are going to be all in Fanatics swag. We're going to have jerseys to give away, hats, you name it. Fanatics hooked us up big time. So they're sponsoring this event kind of unofficially by giving us a bunch of giveaways. Thomas, you're more than welcome to come to Providence. You will definitely not have any bar tab, and we'll give you all kinds of free swag. So don't worry about it.
Are you guys here? You guys have an echo going on here, an audio
a little bit
echo?
Of an echo, yeah.
Is there a little bit of an echo?
It's not bad.
Minimal.
Yeah. Don't worry about it.
All right, just we don't understand each other.
Nah, it's okay. So Thomas, tell me a little bit about your time in the Patriots. Start wherever you want. I just want to hear it. Give me whatever you got.
Sure, man. This came I'm gonna have to dig all the way back, right? So
go for it.
Drafted by the San Francisco 49ers in 2007 and played my second year there. My claim to fame while I was with the 49ers is I led the league in rushing during my first 2 preseasons. So that was like my tip right there. But either way, going into my contract year, my 3rd year with the Niners, I ended up tearing my ACL. It was a crazy injury. But I had developed a really good friendship with Telly Banticane, who had come onto the team out in San Francisco my 2nd year in 2008. And either had a short deal or things didn't work out, whatever the case, but he ended up going back to the Patriots in '09. So that was the year I got hurt, and I was obviously going through my rehab process. And it was a crazy ass injury. I was slated to be out for like 18 months, something bizarre. And obviously with the Stanford doctors, I'm out there in San Francisco with the Stanford doctors, and obviously some good genetics. I was able to come back in like 9 months. It was just just wild to recover that quickly. But anyhow, with that said, I was always telling Telly, I'm like, damn, man, because at the time 49ers, we were barely 500 team. I'm like, man, I need to get out to New England. Like I need to get a ring. Like, you guys are killing it. This is great. It's exciting. And he goes, man, I'm gonna tell him about you. I'm gonna tell him I am. And I tell you, man, so throughout my process, he and I would talk, or my rehab, we would talk. And after I had kind of gotten to the place where I was actually ready to work out for teams, I had the San Diego Chargers, it was the Chicago Bears, Green Bay Packers, and I want to say Philadelphia Eagles, that I was alongside the Patriots that I was going to go work out for, to just show that I was back in shape to sign. And so the Patriots actually called me first, and I still don't know if it was because of Telly or not, but I killed that workout. And they were like, you know what, who else you working out for? And I told them. They were like, well, you're not going to visit those places. We're bringing you back. So I literally had to fly back to California, get all my shit, or at least what I wanted to bring with me, and then come back and be ready for OTAs. Like, I jumped right into OTAs, like right out the gate. And this is in 2010. And so just like that, here I am, a part of, one of the, I came right in the middle phases of both of the dynasties. So I came in 2010, but you could see the makings of greatness. It was incredible. I was leaving a team that, was, very youthful. All the players were very young. Mike Nolan at the time, he had pretty much maybe been coaching there for 2 or 3 years. So it was a little topsy-turvy. And then we had Mike Singletary come in. So I had like 2 different head coaches out there, 3 different offensive coordinators in 3 years. So it was topsy-turvy. So then to come here into this organization and just see how like pinpoint it was just incredible. And the thing that really blew my mind was how all the meetings were player-led. You know what I mean? Like, when I was in San Francisco, the coaches were doing the film, calling guys out. When I came here, it was the players leading the film and still calling guys out or whatever it was, because the standard was so high. I never forget, in the offensive film room, Randy Moss would have the clicker. And, he would essentially, because Bill O'Brien was our offensive coordinator at the time, but he was 100% second fiddle to all the star players that were on that team. Like, he had to take the back seat. Like, everyone in that room listened to the top players and not so much the coaches. And that was just like mind blowing to me. But obviously those guys worked to get to that spot. But anyhow, and coming into 2010, I had to be a part of like the greatest draft that Belichick's ever brought forth. It was Devin McCourty, Rob Gronkowski, Aaron Hernandez, okay, Brandon Spikes. Okay,
you played with a lot of interesting guys. That was one hell of a year.
I played with probably the most eclectic team, if you can use that phrase. Oh shit, hang on.
We like it.
It is. I mean, I played with some of the wildest boys. It was an all-star team, and also all-star players, but also all-star personalities. Like this, top shelf in terms of spectrum, right? You got some wild-ass guys. You got some fucking pinpoint perfect guys, right? But the guy that I really jived with the most, believe it or not, Aaron Hernandez, was someone I talked to a whole lot during practice. He was my dude.
Wow.
Yeah, for real. And,
so he wasn't a weirdo. He was a pretty normal guy when you knew him.
But he was, man, right? Obviously, you got all those. You got all the fucking movies or whatever, documentaries, out about this and that. But the only thing about that is, like, he don't really get to say his piece. So how truthful is any of it, right? It's just kind of the picture that they paint. But I can say with certainty that he was a good teammate. For the time I was there. We both used to do this dead leg move, and so we would compliment each other whenever we were executed in practice. And so that was kind of like the extent of our relationship, was just kind of talking about footwork, football, and just kind of playing the game with style and finesse, right? So I had a good relationship with him. Now Randy Moss, obviously, Joe, as we talked about, I sat next to him on the plane, so I had the luxuries of kind of hearing all his stories, and man, he and then he also paid favors back to me. Like I said, he used to run the film room, so I remember we went and we practiced with the Atlanta Falcons for like a week or whatever, and obviously me coming in, I was off of an injury, this is like a running back by committee. So, you had to get your plays when you got your plays, and you had to make them stand out. And Randy would continuously, always, when I had a good run, rewind it back so everyone could see it over and over.
Oh,
and say,
that's
man, that was a great cut. You know what I
mean?
What
a dude. What a dude.
That's what I'm saying. Putting emphasis on it, right? Because out of a freaking 100 plays, I maybe got like 8 or 10. You know what I mean? So I needed to make the best of them. And him making highlight of that just was amazing, right? So always remember him for that. Seen him at Brady's at his retirement. Gave him love. We took a photo, man. It was great. And so I got really good memories with him. Gerard Mayo, actually, he's from Virginia. I grew up in Virginia. So coming out of high school, we knew of each other, right? So that was someone that I knew from the past, and coming into the locker room that was welcoming. Let's see here. Julian Edelman was in his second year, right? So he hadn't quite become the Iron Man, that everybody remembers.
Special teams guy, right? He was special teams. Yeah,
right. He was just squirrel back then. You know what I'm saying? And but I watched him, man. I watched him work his way, man. And that was probably one of the most amazing things that I was able to actually see with my own eyes. Now I've gone and played on many teams. I played on 5, right? So I saw, Richard Sherman out there in Seattle when he was a rookie, saw him turn into something. Played in Arizona, seen Larry Fitzgerald, seen, his heightened level of greatness. But being out here in New England, right, is really why I really got the feel for what it's like to be on a championship team, and then see what it's like to like work your way up the ladder, right? Because a lot of places it's like kind of how you're drafted, it's kind of how you're played, but man, not in New England, right? You may have undrafted guys that's out there starting. You might have late round picks that can just work their way up. So being able to see Julian do what he did, it's no mystery to me. He put the work in on, and I remember vividly him, pestering the shit out of Wes Welker, you know what I'm saying? And really trying to understand.
And Wes wasn't trying to hear it, probably.
He wasn't trying to hear it. Man, get the fuck away. But he was relentless in his pursuit, though. You know what I'm saying? Like Jules really wanted to learn that position. He was a quarterback, right? So he looked at, small slot receivers out here getting it, making great moves in open space. Like, how do I do that? And I watched him do it. And coming back in that 2011 year, they didn't bring Wes back. I was already knowing my mind, like, man, Julian gonna take off. He's gonna take off.
Yeah.
And he did just that, And so it's amazing. I saw him at Tom's retirement as well, gave him love. But man, it's great. Like, Brian Hoyer as well. Just guys that, I played with and spent so much time with back then, and to be able to see him in current time and still be able to share that love is one of like the awesome brotherhoods that you find here with this Patriot organization.
That's amazing, man. It's a great story. One follow-up question.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, your ACL injury was at a time where ACLs were a huge deal. Now, right, these doctors now, these guys are running like full speed, like what, 5 months in, 6 months in? Now, they're not maybe doing lateral cutting and stuff, but you're talking like Stephon Diggs just came back at what? He's 31, just came back after 8 months and was doing every full load.
That's what I'm saying. But notice, I put that in the universe. I did that first.
Yeah,
I did that first, right? So it's just like it's like a saying, like
you basically rehabbed in half the time that they were telling you it was going to take.
Exactly, because it's all in your mind.
Wow.
It's all in your mind. But
that is a thing level right there, because that 9 months, that was like unheard of back then.
Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
It was technically like supposed to be a career-ending injury. It was a patella tendon, PCL, MCL, meniscus. It was wild.
Wow.
And it was on a routine play too. That's what made it even more crazy. But I did end up, finding my wife through that situation, so we can get into that maybe even too. But
there you go.
Amazing.
But yeah, man. Hey, so look, like I was saying, there's this saying that no one could ever crack the 4-minute mile. No one could ever do it. And then once one guy did it, a bunch of guys just kept on doing it. So it's just like some sort of collective connection of once someone uncovers something, then others can tap into it. So me coming back early, now that's commonplace. Guys coming back, in 8-9 months like it's nothing, because hey, it's been done before. Why not?
Because it was, like you said, it was career ending, right? It used to be like a career ending thing, and then you did it in 9 months. It's like a trailblazer, I would say.
And it happened in my third year, and then I ended up playing for 7. So, but I will say that being a part of this Patriot organization is what gave me extra years on my career. I learned how to be a pro coming here, right? I was just young and dumb in San Francisco, trying to get to Vegas as quickly as I could. But when I came here, I realized the business aspect of the NFL, and obviously that's by way of championship-minded players, but just the organization holding the expectation at such a high level that you could do nothing but fucking bring your best and come into work every day and hustle. And I felt like one locker room dynamic that I felt like it was like kind of like really no matter where you were drafted, it's really based on the work that you put in. Now I ended up playing for this team or coming back to this team back and forth like 3 different times throughout 2010 and 2011.
2010, it was them. It was the Patriots and the Browns.
And the Browns, yeah, exactly.
And then the Patriots.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah,
we picked you up off waivers, and then they picked you up off waivers, and then we picked you up off waivers.
Yeah, no, exactly. It was wild. It was definitely a wild ass experience. I really don't know if anyone in NFL history has ever done that before.
No kidding.
You know what I mean? Straight up. But like it worked out well for me because I ended up coming back to the Pats on a
they traded Maroney that year, didn't they? Trade Lawrence Maroney? So they needed some help in the backfield.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it was definitely running back by committee. At that time, it was let me see, myself, Sammy Morris, Fred Taylor, Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, and Danny Woodhead.
Wow.
Yeah, it was loaded, man. That team was incredible. It was wild to think that we didn't make it to the Super Bowl that year, but and I'll give you a piece of that. Like we had a bye week, like obviously we won our division and we had a bye week, and it was versus the Jets that we were going to play to get to the championship game. We had just smoked them by like 40 a couple weeks back, but it was like 2 weeks of extra preparation that I think really kind of took us off course, right? A lot of times when teams come off wild card, they have the momentum, so they tend to do decent if they got a good team, if they hit their stride at the right time. But for us, being as talented as we was, I think we needed to just stay on the field and just stay active. Whereas that 2-week hiatus really just kind of took us off our track there, and then we ended up losing that game to the Jets. I think Rex Ryan or somebody ended up writing a book or some shit like that. It was something wild. Like, he was so excited to beat us. The guy wrote a book, but
that was his claim to fame, is winning that playoff game. That's his pinnacle of his whole career.
That's what I'm saying. It's true.
It's literally
true. But it just shows you how it could be just one little thing. We beat that team by many touchdowns just a few weeks before, and then we ended up losing to them by multiple touchdowns. So it's just like any given Sunday, man. So I think the preparation again, I would say, is a bit off that week, if I can recall it correctly. Guys walking around a little butt tight, you know what I mean? It just wasn't loose and relaxed like it should have been. And then we ended up, taking the L to the Jets, man. But, other than that, my experience and understanding of how that locker room operated was just top tier. Tom's preparation was second to none. And that's what made him as great as he became. Because he had already had 3 Super Bowls by the time I got to the team. But this is like long hair Tom, you know what I mean? So he was and he hadn't gotten into the second dynasty phase just yet. But he was just such a locker room guy. I remember when I first got brought to the team, he just walked up to me and started talking to me, knew my name and everything, right? So I'm just saying, damn, if your lead guy is like that, then there ain't no question why this team's so good. And I just wanted to just get in where I fit in, and I had, like I said, I put in some good time here, played for many teams, and so I got a lot to contrast in my NFL experience. But the one thing that sticks out is just the professionalism of the locker room, how much love Bob Kraft gives to the players. Even to this day, I see him and give me a big hug. And he does great with the alumni. Like, I'm still a part of the Patriots alumni. I do a lot with the community, and also, just giving back and being around the current players. I've mentored some of the guys in real estate, had to meet me on site, and I show them, how to, dissect a budget or how to create one and what to look for and whatnot. So I've given back in my ways as well, but it's just my appreciation is extremely high for this organization. I mean, I wouldn't even be here in New England, let alone to create the business that I have, had it not been for, my time with the Patriots. So I'm ever grateful.
That's awesome. So was Bill as tough to play for as people say, Bill Belichick, or how was he like with the team?
Yeah.
Some people say he's funny. Other people say he's a hard ass.
Yeah. No. So I had the luxury, right, of playing for some amazing coaches in college, right? I played for the great Bill Snyder out of Kansas State. Played for the great Bobby Bowden at Florida State. That's where I went out of high school first. And then I transferred to K-State. So I had already had like these type of coaches that were, had already won championships and were kind of, in the mindset of, what I say is. But one thing that Bill doesn't get a lot of credit for is his sarcasm, right? So he has this image that he projected, at least back when he was my coach. He had this image that he projected, that made him seem, very still-faced and unapproachable. And, obviously he answered the questions as he saw fit. He answered them how he wanted to. But that was all, kind of a part of his game plan. I always, consider him like a wizard. He's obviously an introverted person, right? So you're not going to get all the verbal from him. Like I played for him and then Pete Carroll right after, two night and day coaches.
Yeah.
But both successful, in their own right. But with Bill, when he did tell you something, it meant something. When he say "good run, Thomas," like I'm like, fuck, hell yeah. He said he recognized my shit, yeah, right. So but I felt like he knew what to say and what to say to whatever person. Like he had that element about him, and I don't think he gets enough credit for that. He knew how to talk to each guy and to be able to get that extra juice out of him. And he threw us bones too, man. He wasn't like this hard ass coach that you imagine. He was mindful. That's why I say a wizard. He knew how to be at certain times. I don't know how it got so out of whack in North Carolina with the girl and the college team and all of that. But when he was my coach, that he was the realest one out there. Everybody wanted to emulate the Patriots. Like I said, I played all over the league, and all I would hear, when I would go to other teams, oh man, how was it? How's Bill? Blah blah blah. Right. So everybody wanted a piece. So he definitely created something that was special. He Tom, the whole team dynamic, the organization, Bob, everybody. It wasn't just one. Obviously, I know a lot of people want to give the credit to Tom. I mean, he's out there making the throws, and leading the pack, no question. But there was a lot going on with the dynamic that made the organization successful outside of just Tom's play.
And then he lost his fastball. When you were with him, he was on his game. He was right at the pinnacle of his game,
Oh, he was.
So
yeah.
that's completely understandable. But he fell off a little bit. But we're talking
this
about
guy went for 2 decades. This guy went for 2 decades, collected more rings than he can fit on one hand. So in the event he goes out, throwing not being able to throw the deep balls, fuck it. Who cares? He probably played an extra year that he shouldn't have played. We all can agree to that. He should have just went out on a high horse with Tampa, and that was it. But he may have had some personal shit that he wanted to, kind of prove to Giselle. I don't know, right? And so he figured out he's gonna go back out there. But imagine if he just left on that Tampa Super Bowl. Like, goddamn, right? I mean, we still think of him in that way. Like, we don't remember the fall off, but like, man, I mean, he killed it. Leaving here, go down there year one, and fucking pull the Super Bowl. Like, what?
No one does that. Yeah, it's in football, right? In football, the hardest sport. I would say football arguably is the hardest sport to be that consistent. Like it's so like with the injuries, with
for sure.
This just how the game the game evolves every year differently, right? We just had a combine where guys are all running 4.3, 4.4s. The game's just getting crazy. The game's getting insane every year. It's getting somehow it's getting faster.
Faster and bigger.
Unbelievable and bigger. So what do you tell me, Thomas? What do you like about this New England team? Tell me, what your thoughts are on Vrabel, not the drama in the news right now that I don't care about, but more about like him as a coach. And who do you like on the team? What do you think this team has as far as strengths and weaknesses go?
No doubt. As I mentioned, I'm a part of the Patriot alumni, so I'm there. I'm at training camp. I'm a part of it, right? So I'm watching step by step. First and foremost, right? As I mentioned, Mayo was a guy I've known for decades now. And in his firing, always knew that the team wanted to bring in Vrabel. They went through the process, right, of interviewing guys, but the speak around here was Vrabel's the dude. And so when he came in here, he came in kind of like with a full head of steam, right? Like he had already been the coach. Like it wasn't like his first time here. And obviously that's homage to his time spent here as a player. He's inducted to the Patriots Hall of Fame. I was at that ceremony when that took place. But like he's already, one of the guys, right? So it was easy to accept and believe in his way. He was already successful in Tennessee as well. So what I noticed in going to training camp out the gate was that he was able to really bring the guys in and make them believe quick that Mayo just wasn't able to do, right? And it was just the belief factor, right? How quickly could you get them to believe? Now, obviously, Vrabel had more of a talent pool to deal with than Mayo had, right? We can say that, but also Mayo had the easier access to the job than anyone had, right? So you got to weigh it out. You know what I mean? He didn't have to interview; he just walked in, and that may have also been a part of the reason why he failed, right? Because he didn't have to work for the position. Vrabel, on the other hand, he had just been fired. You know what I'm saying? Like he knows the difference between up and down, right? There's a difference when you have that scale to weigh, because then you're actually in better position to lead guys because they know the difference between good and evil. You've seen both sides, right? Well, how could you only listen to a guy that hasn't seen both sides? You know what I'm saying? It's hard to buy into it. And that's why the guys didn't buy in. Vrabel comes in, right? Not only does he have the right energy, not only did he wear the helmet and was successful doing so, but he's also got a fucking plan that can actually work. Let's see what happens, right? So then I go to training camp and I see all the camaraderie. I'm seeing all the guys. And then I see this Steph Diggs acquisition, right? Which I absolutely loved. And I told you that. And then I was like, man, we might end up winning like 10 games. I was telling everybody, I'm like, man, Nick will tell you. I was like, man, I think we're going to win 10. Like, you think so? I think maybe 8, maybe 7. I'm like, nah, dude, they're going to win 10. I watched them. I seen them. Right. And that's when, Efton Chisholm was starting to pop a little bit too. I'm like, dude, they got guys that you don't even know about that can go. And things started a little bit slow in the beginning of the year. Right. I think they had the mentality of the previous year's team. I mean, it was just a little bit of rollover. But coming 2-2 up against Buffalo, right, and Diggs steps off and shows who he is, man, the team never let off that high horse. Like, literally everybody bought in. And that, to me, was the Steph Diggs effect, right? That was the effect. Because look how Booty stepped. Look at Booty's game from last year and the year before to what he did this past season. Yeah. Come on, man.
Steph really took control of that room.
That's what I'm saying. You can't tell me that he didn't play like a receiver that should have more than a $30 million contract. He didn't play no less than that. He didn't play no less than that, right? Yep. And so what that dynamic was that Steph brought was that locker room guy. That was the one I was saying with Tom back in the day. Tom was a locker room guy. Everyone rallied behind Tom, and that's what made us successful because we all believed that he knew, and he knew that he had our belief, and so it happened. And that's exactly what happened with Diggs. So I'd be interested to see how they replace him this year. You know, I like to hope that Dobbs is the guy, right? You know what I'm saying? But if I had to go apples for apples right now, I'm going with Diggs. If it was the dollar for dollar, okay, for player, I understand the years, but the production can't be denied, and the impact can't be denied. You know what I'm saying? So I know that he has some legal stuff going on, and that's really not the Patriot way. Like, I know that with certainty, that's not the Patriot way, right? They're not going to deal with that if they don't need to, right? Look at what happened with AB and just any person you can think of that was assumed to be a problem. They were out of here quick. So it pains me to think that was the reason, but if it's just player for player, man, you got to have Diggs in the locker room now, and hopefully AJ comes in here, right? That's what we all hoping for. But I'm gonna tell you, man, I've seen some guys in the draft that I like. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I like it. Good segue. I like it.
Yeah, straight up. I've seen some guys that I like, man.
Deep clap.
This class is very interesting. This class is very interesting, Thomas, because it doesn't have as many, I think, blue chip talent as people like, but it's sneaky deep in a lot of positions.
See, that's the thing. We don't need a fuck ton of blue chips, right? That may or may not turn into anything. What I need is a guy I can plug into my team and be successful. Yes. So I'm gonna just jump out the gate and tell you who I like, right? So I've been doing a little bit of studying, right? I knew I had this podcast coming up, so I needed to at least have a little juice for it. I've been looking at these guys, and I know that from a ranking perspective, right? I'm gonna just kind of start from the top. Boston is a guy that people think is a top receiver. He don't have that quick twist that I'm looking for. He can't get off the ball. He can't in practice. You think he'll get past Gonzo? He can't get off the damn ball. No. So that's a guy I don't need. I already have a big body in Hollins. I don't need to bring him in. He's not a burner either. Neither is Kayshon Boutte. I need somebody with some speed. So I'm gonna tell you who I like. I like the kid out of Tennessee, Brazil.
Ooh, Brazil, yeah.
6'4", with shake off the line. He can get off the line.
Like a 4.34 40.
With ball skills, once he's in his route, can break it off, right? He's in the SEC playing against top tier talent. If he can do that, then I got no questions that he can work his way through the division.
And who does he got thrown to him? He's got the best deep ball thrower in the entire fucking league. That's what
I'm saying. In Tennessee was nothing but going to go route and air it out, right?
Yeah.
So I really, really like that. I know another guy that people are hot on. They believe is a first-round pick is KC Concepcion, right? So I watched him back when he was at North Carolina State. He played my alma mater, K-State, in the bowl game. So I scout, man. When my team's up and playing, I'm scouting. I'm always looking at who I need to know about, what's their weak points, what's their high note, like how's this game gonna play out? Because I'm real cerebral with it. So in evaluating Concepcion, I knew he was a quick twitch guy. He's a playmaker. He's hungry. He's the type of guy that even if he kind of remind you of like in terms of his desire to win, He's kind of like Beckham in his prime. Like it was nothing really quick about Beckham. Wasn't anything about his speed or nothing. He just wanted to fucking score, right? So he made it happen. I see that in Concepcion, his ability to just win and his competitive nature. The only issue is he's one of those like kind of small, sawed off motherfuckers. But in the reality, that's what we have here as receivers. That's what we have had. But I want someone tall that can go deep. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. I'm always looking for the big X. You know, Concepcion is fantastic.
We ain't had no one like that since Randy. Come on now.
Brazil could take the top off. Concepcion's probably one of the best slots to come up, but we already have that skill set.
I got that
because uncovers like it's a crazy.
Because at the end of the day, what you going to send Pop Douglas packing to bring in Concepcion? Because that's basically what you're trading off.
Pretty much, yeah. You're saying he's gone at that point.
Because I'm saying like Pop has brought production, and that's with multiple coaches, multiple offensive coordinators. He's been productive. So, you know, he may be an Edelman type of guy where he may not have as much value outside of this locker room than he does here, but that's fine too. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with being a local celebrity, man, right? Like if you're the guy in your town, fucking that's great. So I think Pop Douglas is that kind of guy here. Now, if Concepcion is still available at 31, I mean, they're probably going to take him, right? He's a consensus All-American, right? He's balled out in the ACC and the SEC, so there's no doubt in what you saw as actual. He did come off of a knee injury, right? He had his knee scoped. He didn't run. It doesn't bother me too much. You know, I've had a scope. You know, I know you can recover quick from that. But, you know, when I'm just kind of thinking of guys, I even like Cooper out of Indiana.
Oh my, I love Omar Cooper, man. He just looks like a dude. He looks like a man amongst boys. It looks like he's playing with a bunch of kids out there.
It's true. I'm gonna tell you who reminds me of though. And check this out. Like something about it reminds me of like a CD Lamb, okay, mixed with that Deebo Samuel type, if you will, or really Mark Clayton is who I thought. If you want to go back in the past, Mark Clayton and CD Lamb is a Cooper fusion. Cooper is a fusion of those two guys. Wow. You know what I mean? Good route runner, you know, but also in the case of like Mark Clayton was a great route runner, but in the case of CD Lamb, has the big body, right? You know, I think he's thicker than CD, but just has this elusive, right? Can just make people miss him. And so I do like him. Now, will he be available at 31? Shit, man.
If he is, I'm running to the podium because I actually like him. I like him more than Concepcion, and I think that's a consensus. I think he'll be gone probably in the early 20s, most likely. And Concepcion there could be a big run on receivers, right? You got a lot of these guys. Tyson, he's working out tomorrow. We'll see what happens when he does there. So he's working out tomorrow at ASU. And then you got, you know, Carnell Tate's gone in the top 10 for sure. Mekhi Lemon's a really interesting one. I've heard a lot of different, like he could be a surprise fall, but I think there will be a run. I think there's going to be like that, you know, teens run into the 20s. That's just going to, most of these guys are going to be gone, I think.
No, 100%.
I that's kind of why big X. I'd rather have the big X than the slot.
I'm with you.
Well, you know, it's kind of like a little bit of massaging, right? A lot of people kind of say, well, you know, based on what they do is going to determine if we're getting AJ Brown or not. I don't think so. Any of them guys I named, we still get them because we're going to get them cheaper than what we're going to get AJ for. And these guys can then learn from some vets, you know, along the way. It's not a plug and play situation. Look how they did Kyle Williams this year. He had some touches, but it didn't just all out fucking throw him out there. So I don't think any guy that they pick right now is somebody they're looking to just throw out there and give him, you know, 50 to 80 balls. Right. That's not happening, right? It's really like
who would you prefer? Would you prefer the AJ Brown trade, or do you think we should invest in a young big X and go that route?
I mean, I think see, the only thing is right now, the longer this goes on, I feel like the leverage does go to AJ. And it's gonna be hard to do them like they did Diggs, where it was kind of like it looked good on paper, 69 mil, but really only like 18, 20 was guaranteed for that year one. So it's kind of like a pickaboo deal, right? You know what I mean? It looks a certain way, but really, what is it? I think AJ's he's gonna be looking for that solid guaranteed 9-figure. You know what I'm saying? And the longer this goes on, he's probably gonna get it. But then you got to ask, like, how many other organizations are willing to pay that? I think it's, you know, it's kind of like the celebrities tax. You know, some celebrities sell their house, they're trying to sell for a couple dollars more. That's just how it goes. But in his case, you know, because he's got the relationship with Vrabel, I think he's then thinking his value is even greater. So then, therefore, then the scales kind of tip in his favor to some degree. I think that we should go into this draft as if he's not in the picture and get what the fuck we need at the cheap ass price that we know we can get these guys. And then if it just so happens, let's go. Don't forget we got Tyreek Hill waiting in the wings. If AJ Brown don't work out, you know what I'm saying? Tyreek Hill is going to recover, and if I can probably get a deal very much like Steph Diggs with him because he's coming off such an injury. But we know his pedigree, we know what he's made of. So it's like, you know what? If AJ don't come through, I will fucking take Tyreek Hill. Even if he can't play until week 6, I will take that.
That guy's a fucking alien, dude. That guy, he is not human.
He's
not
right
human,
now,
that guy.
He's just sitting there,
He's sitting there. That's why like my lip is
now, but he's going to be healthy at some point, and nobody's talking about him.
That's what I'm saying. My lip is zipped on that, but I mean, it's just us guys talking right now. But like, I'm saying, so if AJ, so it's going to have to be a little give and take. I'm in a negotiation right now. I'll tell you guys for a 168 unit project, right? And I'm going back and forth with this old guy. He's about 86. He lives in New York. And the contract terms are just not favorable. Now, granted, I'm buying this big development for a really, really good price. But even outside of that, the terms still have to be, in balance. So I'm going through the negotiation process right now, right? So as I'm thinking about this, I'm kind of drawing correlations to, the Patriots and an eventual or potential negotiation with AJ Brown. And it really comes to where the leverage is. See, at the end of the day, the guy's telling me the project, okay, he's got permits that expire. So if I don't perform, he can't sell it, right? So technically I have the leverage. Now right. I'm getting the property, I'm getting the development opportunity for a low price. Right. But that's also contingent on the situation that I'm stepping into. Right. So it's so many aspects of a negotiation that take place. A lot of it does not meet the eye, and a lot of it is kind of like nuance or subjective, but they do hold weight. And so I just really think that we cannot put all of our eggs in any basket that is going to cost us like hundreds of millions or at least a non-figure contract when we can go ahead and get some cheap guys that we can develop with a really great quarterback that's on the rise that he can grow with. AJ, no matter what, is going to be a short-term situation. And I say short-term, I mean at greatest 3 to 4 years, in likelihood 2, you know what I'm saying? Right. And that'll just be due to money commitment. So it's like, with the way he's going to come in, he's going to want the money now, right? And that's just the nature of it. But that doesn't necessarily equate to production. Every guy that's gotten paid in Philly, when they get paid, they don't do shit. Right. So yeah. I'm just saying,
Saquon,
look at it. Jalen. And Jalen was my favorite coming out of college because I love his mental strength, what he had to deal with. But in terms of being a pro, when they get the dollars, then the ambition or the drive kind of dissipates a little bit. So that said, I'm trying to put my money in the hungry kids. The boys that's trying to come up and turn into something. I'm trying to put my money there. Because I don't know what they're going to do with Drake, but I'm sure they're going to probably try to get him a long-term deal coming up here. Like the reality of it is your best chance is when you have your quarterback on his cheapest fucking contract. That's your best chance to get into a Super Bowl. So it's got to happen now. So we got to get these guys in now, these young guys that can grow. If I'm getting an old guy, I need to get a discount. Just like with the old dude I'm dealing with now. I'm buying a situation, I got to get a discount.
I love it.
That's a real life analogy, folks, ladies and gentlemen.
That's what I'm saying.
And
there it is.
You got to leverage, right? You got to get that leverage. And to me, leverage in this AJ Brown situation means you are drafting somebody in the first 2 rounds.
Yes.
Right? You draft somebody in the first 2 rounds, then you go to Howie Roseman and go, hey, Howie, I got a guy here. I got him. I got Romeo Dobbs. I got a great line now. I got this. I got that. I don't really need this, but I mean, if you want a second, sure, I'll give it to you. But that's kind of the best. And right? AJ Brown and Vrabel are like dying to work together again.
Of course.
But
that's the celebrities tax. Don't forget that. Because
100%.
Everyone knows that. Now you're trying to trickle up the price. Like, look, man, it means that we have synergy. It don't mean that the value goes up off that. So it's got to be played right. We'll see how they do it, man. Like I know how to negotiate my deals. Okay, let's see what they do.
I like it. The one thing I like about Elliot Wolf is he doesn't really lose deals. He might not make deals, but he doesn't typically lose deals. So I do like that. Yeah. One question for you, Thomas. What position do you think's most important for this team? Like if you have to pick first and second round, what are your first 2 picks in the first and second round?
Yeah, you know what? As crazy as it sounds, and it's based on just the value of the draft, right? It would have to be a receiver or a tackle because those are the two high value positions that eventually are going to get, those high price tag contracts later down the line. So if it's not receiver, there is a kid, I think he's out of Arizona State. This tackle, is it Arizona State?
Yeah, Ioniker, Max Ioniker.
Yeah. Yes, man. I'm just a bona fide athlete, like a big body. He's got the footwork. I mean, he's going to be a bit raw, right? But just with his athleticism and his stature, I'm willing to work with him. So I think that he would be excellent. Also, too, D tackle is a high likelihood. I think it's Mesidor, kid out of Miami. He's pretty nasty. So I'm looking at kind of like these high value positions that will garnish high pay later down the line. That's who I'm looking at for that first round pick, because it essentially becomes trade bait for me even down the line, potentially as well. I wouldn't trade that pick. I would see if the highest value I could get, who's still on the board at that time, because that's kind of 31 is what you get. Like I think Lamar Jackson went 31. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
No one thought he'd go to Baltimore, but look at what he's been able to create in going there. So
it was actually 32. Belichick traded 32. That pick to Baltimore and bailed out, and he let Baltimore get Lamar Jackson. And he always says it's one of his biggest regrets. And I'm like, well, then you should have just friggin' drafted the kid. All right. So,
but they were trying to make him a receiver. They wanted to make him a receiver, though. You know what I'm saying?
Good Lord.
I know, but that's what they wanted to do, and a lot of teams were kind of on the fringe like that with him, which is wild to think. But he's become a more polished passer, over his years. But him being a dynamic runner was what got him the attention. But you got to make the plays, or as an organization, you got to make the plays that are going to make your team better. So you make the picks that are going to increase your team. Lamar at that time wasn't going to. He would have been a value pick, but it wouldn't have necessarily improved our team. So I say the same even at receiver, right? But we kind of do need a substantial receiver, whether that's substantial in production, substantial in presence, right? Because Steph had that presence. But man,
he ran that room. Man. So we need leadership.
We do. I think Mac Hollins will bring that, right? Like we still have veterans in the game. Booty is going to bring that as well. He's been successful. He was the most successful receiver before this past season, right? He was, so typically, let me give you a little insight. Typically, when you go to training camp, you see whatever guy's wearing the visor going first in line, that's who the number one receiver is. Okay. Booty, before Diggs got there, he had his visor. He's going first. Diggs had to eventually work his way into going first, but it was always Booty. And with Diggs's presence, Booty then ticked it up a notch. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna say that he's gonna bring quite a bit of leadership this year. Pop Douglas been there a while, been productive. He's gonna bring leadership as well. So it is a good group that's been taught by by an OG, if you will, in Diggs. So they're gonna know how to treat that locker room coming up without him. I know they are. And can't say enough about Mac Hollins and his how clutch he is in his catches when we need him. But also, too, his locker room presence is monstrous. You know what I'm saying? And he's willing to do whatever. He do special teams. Say again?
Yields everybody accountable.
Oh, no question.
He surprised the shit out of me. He honestly, for a player coming in first year into that system, we all know that system is notorious for eating and chewing up receivers because all the option routes, all the different things, you have to be on the same page with the quarterback. And that guy was more clutch than almost anybody on the whole team.
For real.
Thomas, I want to talk about the running backs. We didn't talk too much about the running backs. What do you think about this running back room? Obviously, we got Ramondre, we got Trevion, we got our boy Lan Larison. We got a lot of guys in there that I think can play. Do you think we're drafting a running back? Do you think we have the right guys?
I would say it would be pretty standard type, be like some 3rd, 5th round, maybe a 6th rounder potentially. And that's if value's there. But, at the end of the day, right, we got probably one of the biggest steals of the draft last year in Trevion. And he showed that immediately in the first preseason game, electric as fuck, just ran the kickback. You know what I'm saying? And he really pushed Ramondre. Ramondre became his best version in the stretch, right? And that was all due to what Trevion was able to do in the mid part of the season, right? Because obviously they weren't giving him that many opportunities at the beginning. Ramondre is the guy who's been paid, right? He's a top 10 paid running back in the league. And he was getting carries like that, but he kept fumbling. And so, Vrabel being the guy that he is, he put Trevion out there, and his ass was explosive. Now, one thing I would like to critique with Travion, and I hope he hears this, and when I see him, I'm gonna tell him this anyway, is he commits to putting his foot in the dirt and going downhill too quickly versus using his speed to get outside. He don't need to take those hits. Now, he's strongly built, but he ain't number 200 pounds. He don't belong inside like that. Now, I get it. His style of play is downhill and, foot in the dirt and go. But if he could just be a little more patient, notice how Ramondre is very patient, then hits it. He don't have a breakaway speed like Travion, but Travion would have had probably another 400 or 500 yards if he could learn patience. Yeah. So when I see him, I will tell him that.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. That's the perfect assessment of his rookie season. He flashed so much, but he didn't play to his strengths, and he needs to learn to do that.
That's correct. That's correct. And he will do that. The biggest jump in the league is from year 1 to year 2. So just like you've seen with Drake. But I experienced that myself, so I know for sure with Travion's work ethic, without a shadow of a doubt, he's going to be what we expect him to be. Year 2, year 3, he's gonna show like we expect. I think this is Ramondre's last year on his contract, so technically it would make sense to bring in another back like they brought him in. I think he was like 4th round. If we can get some good value, maybe if there's a back that trickles down. But I feel like the draft for backs is top heavy with Love, and then it's kind of everybody else. So it's really just about maybe even developing the guys I have. I may not need to get a back. I may even get a free agent, or I may get a veteran, as we go. But I think, with our 1-2 punch, and then with Ladd, with having some potential to come up, I may need one more guy, and that may be a veteran that's already put in work in the league that I will bring into this equation. But we'll see how it plays out. But I don't think there's a need for RB right now. I'm looking at, receiver, O-line, D-line, tight end. We can talk about tight end if you like.
Yeah, and before we get to tight end, this Mike Vrabel is clearly making a statement with these offseason additions, right? You got Julian Hill, right? Inline blocker, block for Achane, right? All those plays where Achane's breaking it out, you got Hill sealing blocks, going to the second level. And then you get, you got AVT, right? You got AVT, you got the fullback Gilliam, right? I mean, they're making a very concerted statement that we are running the football.
We're running the ball. We're
running it. We're doing it. And so to me, I'm super excited about Trevion. I'm excited about Ramondre too. I'll be the first person to say I was shitting on Ramondre last year. Yeah. He lost a ton of weight. I was calling him Skinny Mondre. Yeah, I'm like, this guy's not gonna be able to take a hit. Yeah. Oh man, I ate those words. And granted, in the beginning, I was kind of right, and then he showed me. He came back and he said, "Yeah," and I mean, glad to listen to me or anything. But
he thickened up too, though. I think I think that body alteration came by way of Travion's appearance. He's all chiseled and cut. So he's like, oh shit. But now Ramondre, be you. He's got that great contact balance, which he always has on display. He's not going down on the first tackle, soft hands in the flat. Definitely they're both good blockers. But he's dependable, man, and he wouldn't have gotten into his position if he wasn't. Ramondre had low tread on his tires from college. He was, going doing double duty with P-Ron back then, and we're getting the lesser share of the carries. So he had plenty of tread. So the acquisition through Belichick was very, very wise. And but Ramondre was, I think, wasn't like an All-American running back in JUCO or something. So he knew what it was to play at the top level of the against the competition he was at. So I'm not surprised that he was able to get a good contract, a top 10 contract for running back. But now is really that year where we got to see his absolute best from beginning to end. It's been spotty since he got the contract. Now, but if he can put it all together, then I think he would probably warrant, something very similar in pay. If he can do it all throughout the year, give me like a 1,200 yard year, something like that, maybe 1,600 all purpose. That's what it would take for him to get a relative contract, or else it's going to be 1-2 year, couple mil, and then he'll be out.
Right. Yeah, I made a Freudian slip once on the pod, and I said yards after contract instead of yards after contact, and it was hysterical because I didn't mean to do it, but it was like, no, it's yards after contract. That's actually really good.
I love that.
It was a good accident. But let's go to the tight end position, because I think Hunter Henry, right? He's been reliable. He's been on the team for like 5 years, super reliable. But I did see, I don't know if everyone noticed this, but I mean, towards the end of the season, kind of had a little bit of a fall off. Wasn't always in the right spot. Yeah, injuries, some drops, and then we obviously lost Austin Hooper. So what are we thinking? I think we need to at least draft one, right?
Let me tell you something. I played with the best tight end combo any team could ever have. Gronk and Hernandez.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord! If we only had like more years of that. Oh my God.
I know. But they paid. Let me tell you, but they paid Aaron too quick.
True.
When they paid him, he went berserk. He went berserk. If they could have held off on that, maybe things could have played out a little bit different. But man, but getting back on track. So I loved Hooper, by the way, right? And they were a good 1-2 punch. But I would have liked some more athleticism at that position. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody that could actually go out and kind of go into obviously run the seam, but kind of go out into like their receiver set a little bit, right? And be a threat that way. So I know that there's so I'm gonna just tell you, the kid that I like is actually not just a pure receiver, but he blocks his ass off and he's shown soft hands with the opportunities, and that's Roush from Stanford.
Ooh,
I feel like he could come in and block the shit. Like if he can do nothing more, he gonna block, right?
Right. Yeah.
And
right.
Then, but he's shown with opportunities that his hands are he's unpolished. So that means that in the right organization with a young quarterback, like I mentioned, he can grow with them. Right? There's something to be said for guys that aren't polished. That means that what they learn is going to come from who teaches them. So if he's learning from Vrabel, learning from his young quarterback, he's going to be what they want. So I think there's upside in the fact that he's unpolished as a receiver, but very, very polished as a pass protector and as a run blocker. So that's my pick. I think we can probably get him cheap too, probably like 3rd or 4th round, which will be a great spot to get a tight end. There's another
super athletic too. Super athletic,
man.
He runs a 4.7 40.
Like 6'6". The kid's huge.
6'6", 267. He's got a 40-inch vertical. Like this he's an athlete. He's an athlete.
He's massive. Now the kid out of Vanderbilt, I've watched him quite a bit because I was cheering on Pavia there. But he's more of a receiver. Let's be honest, right? He's not going to block no one.
He's a big slot. He's going to be a big slot.
He's a big slot. He's not going to block anyone, but he will pose mismatches versus outside linebackers, which is what they're going to put on him if he does end up going out to play in that semi-slot or tight end role. So he does pose a mismatch. But the fact that he's not much of a run blocker does kind of take me off of him because I got enough receivers. Even Mac Holland could kind of fit in that mold of a tight end-esque type of receiver. So I don't technically need him. I'd be more looking for that run blocker for sure that could potentially offer me some passing opportunities down the line.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a Eli Raridan, right, out of Notre Dame.
Another
guy fits in the same mold as kind of Sam Roush, maybe a little less athletic, but probably a little better of a more polished blocker. But yeah, there's not many of those like pure, like give me like the Jason Witten or one of these guys who's just like.
Let me tell you who, the kid out of Georgia,
Oscar Delp, right?
Delp.
Yeah.
So what you get out of him, right, is he again, like I've mentioned, Ramondre got no tread, right? I think he only had 20 passes or something last year. That's not a knock on his production. It's just the product of what they do. Georgia will put up 50 a game, right? Running the ball. They're not going to throw it to the tight end. It's just not a part of what's happening. But when he got his opportunities, he looked athletic. And so he's one of those guys that, again, with no tread, could eventually have like this really long NFL career. You know what I'm saying? And we could probably get him for the cheap, right? So I'm kind of thinking about these guys are in that 3rd to 5th round type because I think that's really where the value is going to be. But man, that's a good one. Now, he's a sleeper that I think with his build, he's got a very athletic build, could become something special. His ceiling seems like it's high.
Yeah, definitely. And I do see teams maybe splurging on him too, and maybe picking him early because he's mocked anywhere between the late 2nd to late 3rd, 4th. I mean, I've seen him mocked everywhere. So it's but he like you said, he's a special combination, and the film that they do have on him where he's receiving, I mean, he's running by people. He's running by people. He's breaking tackles, and he's doing all the things that some of these the best tight ends do.
Definitely.
And then the interesting part about the tight end class too is you got Kenyon Sadiq. He's kind of like a joker, right? He's kind of like he's an athlete, right? He's in like the Vernon Davis mold. He's not like 6'6", but he's basically Vernon Davis, where he's just like he looks like the Hulk, but he's fast. He can do everything. It's like, but he's not a pure tight end. So if you're looking for that pure elite tight end, he's not really in this class. Maybe it's Oscar Delp. But it's interesting. It's a super deep position. We could name, I think, 10 names in it. They're all like
100%.
Great players.
100%. I would think the kid out of Oregon, though, what if some about him makes me feel like his presence would demand like the ball. And I don't know if he's polished enough with the ball in his hand to demand it. You know what I'm saying? I think he's a freak. Of course, he probably ran a great 40. I didn't do my research on him in particular, but I know his visual,
wasn't it?
Yeah, his visual jumps off the page. I'm sure he probably jumped a 40-inch vertical, probably benched over 25 on the bench press, right? 25 reps. But when I watched him play, he's still a bit unpolished, as a ball carrier. You know what I'm saying? So when I'm looking at when I'm going to pick someone like him, he probably end up. What do you think he'll be? Second round, third round? Second round, probably.
Sadiq is going to be. He's going to be top 20. He's going to be top 20.
It'll be like the Raiders that'll pick him. Like what I'm getting.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
But what I'm getting at is I don't think there'll be any significant production out of him until he really learns the game. Probably year 2, year 3. It's not a see, I look at a first rounder, his ass got to be able to jump in there right away and be productive. I'm not going to get that out of him unless he's a blocker. Now he's physically able to block, but that's not his game. So we'll see who gets him. But I mean, if in the event he's available at 31, do I take him or would I do Mesidor? Like, he wouldn't be my first option. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even though he's a freak, I get it. But freak, I played with freaks. I played with Vernon, one of my best friends, in fact. But the freak element, it looks good when you're doing combine and everything like that, but it doesn't necessarily turn you into an excellent football player necessarily in the league. So we'll see how it plays out, man. I wish him the best at the end of the day, but as far as for the Patriots, I'm gonna have to pass unless I'm able to get value on him like second, third round.
Well, if they had Mesidor on the board at 31, I'd be sprinting to the podium. If that was the case. He's supposed to be a first rounder too, but
no, for sure. Look, it's gonna be some guys that's gonna slide down there. Remember, we're gonna get someone. I do believe we're gonna get someone of significant value at that point. Someone's gonna slide for some reason. Whatever that may be. So I think it'll be
a tackle or an edge.
Right, which is I think it's going to be receivers. I think receivers are going to end up falling in that spot. I think we're going to have several receivers that we didn't expect to be there that we'll get to pick from. So it's the question of do we go receiver or do we go with the the edge rusher or something like that. So it'll be very interesting. It'd be very, very interesting.
I would love to see, and maybe not in the first round because that's a little too splashy, but I would love, we have 11 picks, right? We're not picking 11 players. Like there's no way. There's too many, there's not enough roster spots to justify it. Yeah. So we're going to move up at some point. Is it possible for us to move up in the first? I mean, you have to give up a lot to do that. It all depends on who falls, right? But I do think if to me, it's like Jordan Tyson is one that I do see falling. Makai Lemon. I could totally see Makai Lemon falling.
But to 31 though, or it's
definitely
like
not. But I'm saying like,
up.
could he be like late teens, early 20s, and they're like, let's go get him because he's a guy day one. Makai Lemon is a guy day one who would change this team, the whole offense. He changed the whole offense.
Yeah, he's explosive. He's explosive.
But it's going to be tough. I think they're going to probably do the less sexy thing, and they're probably going to trade up in the third, fourth, right? They're going to make some moves where they move up a few, down a few, right? But yeah, I'm excited. I can't be more excited, Thomas. I mean, that we're going to have a draft night next week, and there's going to be 12 different podcasters / content creators there. We have Mike's family, my family. It's gonna be great. So if you can make it, Thomas, we would love it. If obviously you're a busy guy, but if you want to come down, we will definitely shower you with all kinds of stuff.
Man, that'd be great. Send me the details.
Yeah, we have past appetizers, and this is Joe's buddy Ryan's restaurant. This food is out of this friggin' world, dude. It's unbelievable.
I believe
it. It just keeps coming, and it just keeps coming and keeps coming.
Yeah. That's great.
Nobody will leave.
I got him. It's his birthday too, and so because he's like helping me out here, I got him. He's probably not listening, so I can say this, but I got him a signed John Hanna jersey. I put it in a nice shadow box. I got a whole thing going for him. Yeah, so it's gonna be nice. Yeah, he'll be excited.
Man, that's great stuff. But Joe, just to kind of piggyback off what you said, man, I do believe there'll be more trading kind of like in those mid rounds because that's really where you build the depth of your team, really, right? The team that you're going to develop over the course of 2, 3, maybe even 4 or 5 years, whatever. But so I do believe that'll be then. The Patriots aren't the type to trade up in the first round and do all of that and lose draft capital in order to grab a guy. That's just not the Patriot way. Certainly not the Patriot way that I know of. So I think that they'll be mindful of, what's available, the value picks, but I think they're going to get the guy that they freaking want. The way that you do these war rooms, man, they got this thing like a tree branch. You know what I'm saying? And so there's a scenario for every other scenario where there's a scenario. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Rest assured on that. But I mean, look, man, we already have a really strong nucleus, with our quarterback and coach, right? Like that's really where the dynamic begins. Offensive line is strengthening, right? We have confidence in our backfield. Obviously our receiver room is better than it's been, right, in years past. And then we're going to add more depth, right? So, and our defense continues to get stronger. We got a lot to be excited about, of course our schedule gets a little more tough, but hey, man, we went through the gauntlet during the playoffs and we still made it to the Super Bowl. So it's not like we're incapable of being successful versus stiff competition. It just so happened we had a little light schedule. We beat the shit out of everybody too, right? So you know what I'm saying? So you gotta take it for what it's worth. But I think the momentum that we have, I'm going in another 10+ win season, man, coming up.
I love it. Mike and I we're right with you. We were saying 10, 11 wins last year, and this was before everything, all the preseason and everything. We were saying we're looking at the schedule going, this is 10 or 11 wins. I don't care. Like this, I don't care what anyone's saying. Look at all these quarterbacks we're playing. All these bum ass quarterbacks. Like, and now this year, I agree, Thomas. I do think it's a little tougher. But I think this team is gonna build, right? This team is gonna be a little tougher too mentally. They just came off a terrible Super Bowl loss, and we know where the issues were, right? We couldn't run the ball, we couldn't stop the run, and we couldn't block. We couldn't block the on pass plays. So it's and guess what? They're gonna get better at all those things. They're not gonna get worse.
Exactly.
So,
they're gonna be a better team. We just need to make sure that they plug the holes that they still have. They still need some depth at key positions. So the jury's a little bit out, and the schedule is a little bit daunting. But no, I still got them for at least 10. We'll do our prediction episode in several weeks from now. But we still have high hopes. We still have playoff hopes for this team.
Yeah. Oh, big time. Another good takeaway from last year really is having a result like that really just was your stamp of knowing that we're out of the dark ages, right? And that was like 5 years of just agony. It was unlike anything I ever experienced. I came here, Patriots was fucking this is shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And to experience that, I know there's kids that are walking around in their 20s that knew nothing of the Patriots being bad, right? And so everybody going through that, we collectively as New Englanders went through that. And to have last year's season kind of just be like that stamp that, the dark ages are over, really just gets us excited for the future. Like, most people just figured they'd win about 8 games and they'd have been happy. I mean, we went all the way to the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? And you really were a threat. For the most good part of that, everyone thought we were going to win it. So I just think we just build off that, right? It's really the psychological capital. Like, let's just build off the momentum that we have, right? The belief that we have. Let's just keep stacking. And, if we do it again, then it's like, okay, they really are back. So I think the verdict is still going to be out up until we prove that shit again this year, that the Patriots are back. And I believe we have the makeup and the pedigree to bring that forth.
Give me the fucking Seahawks week 1. Give me these fucking Seahawks. Give me them. Because they got worse. Guess what? They got a lot worse. A lot worse. Not even like a little worse.
A lot.
So give me the Seahawks. And I honestly, I feel like we got them. I feel like we got them week. Honestly, I felt like we were in that game. I feel like that 9-0.
Don't bring up old shit, though.
Cool. We haven't done it.
It's cool. I think that's another case. That's another case of when I told you we lost to the Jets back in 2010, right? Just too much time for preparation, right? We played against the Seahawks, who's a defensive-minded team, okay? They don't that gave them 2 weeks more to scheme, right? Like we were offensive team, really. We didn't need that much time to come up with shit because then we over-prepared. And in that place, guys were underprepared due to being overprepared. If you get what I mean, guys weren't prepared to just go out and play simple and go do their job. I think we should have got not Ramondre. We should have got Travion involved way earlier. We should have got Steph Diggs involved way earlier. Get your playmakers involved so they have to be accounted for. So then I can do the other shit. Don't do the other shit and then try to come back to them later because it's too late. Every missed opportunity became 3 points for the other team. Missed opportunity, 3 points for them. 3 points for them each time, and the next thing you know is 9-0, man. Like, all we had to do was just play our game, and then it could have been a much I mean, also if Gonzo could have got the pick before halftime, things could have been a little different. Right? It's a bunch of if this shit. But at the end of the day, if we go back to playing the way we did for that 10, 11 week run, right, and playing that type of football, like from the beginning of the season to the end, people gonna have to acknowledge the fact that the Patriots are back, and a lot of people are reluctant to do that, but it's on us to actually make them do it.
Yeah, the schedule, my ass. Anyone that knows ball, that's watching this team for 60 minutes, knows that schedule, it mattered a little bit. But guess what? We beat the snot out of the Panthers. Like all these teams, and the Panthers were a good team. The Panthers, they gave fits to the Bills. They gave fits to a bunch of teams, beat a bunch of teams, and so and then all of a sudden it was it was funny. The Chargers, oh, they're gonna get beat by the Chargers. Right. Oh, well, their O-line stinks, and then we're gonna get beat by the Texans, and oh, well, C.J. Stroud stinks. It's like, well, C.J. Stroud was the quarterback the whole year. What do you mean he stinks? Now he stinks. Like, so the narrative just kept changing, right? The narrative kept changing.
But I mean, our defense was the best defense on the field in each of those games, and that's why we won. Everyone said how great San Diego's defense was, and they were good, but they weren't better than ours. Everyone said the same thing about the Broncos. They were good, but not better than ours, right? So at the end of the day, you just want to, be the best one out there when the game's over. You will have the most points when the game's over. And for the Super Bowl, we didn't do it, right? But this is such a great learning experience. Look at the sequence, though. You know what I mean? Like Jalen Hurts lost his first Super Bowl and then went back and won that shit. You know what I'm saying? I believe Mahomes lost and then went back and won that shit, man. So if that's the pattern, then fucking let's go. This look good for us.
We're so lucky, guys. I can't say it enough. Like Drake May, Mike Vrabel. I mean, like you said, the nucleus is there, right? You got that nucleus. Now everything else is gravy building on top of that.
Yep, no question. I mean, you gotta give Mayo credit for that.
That's true.
May pick. Yeah, people forget that. So you gotta pay homage when it's due. But yeah, man, we got something good going here. I'm looking forward to getting back to camp and watching those guys. I'd like to watch it from the beginning and then see how they progress. And I was thoroughly impressed with what Mike was able to do with the boys and really how they all bought in, man. They all bought in, ready to rock. And that's how I knew the Patriots locker room to be. So it was good to see that.
Amazing. Yeah, it was very intentional, right? When Mike and I were there at camp with other podcasters and stuff, and it's just very intentional. Everything had down to the minute. Everything was timed.
Yep.
The draft seemed very intentional, right? Everything they did in the draft, every move they made in the offseason, bring in Milton Williams, who was an absolute monster. I've never seen someone get paid like that, like you said, and then ball the fuck out that whole year. The whole year, outside of when he was hurt a little bit, but
no, 100%. Yeah, 100%. No.
Well, Thomas, I can't say enough. Thank you so much for coming on, man. You're a pleasure. You're a class act. The pleasure is all ours. That's all I got to say.
Hell yeah.
Awesome and good. Thanks for having me on. This was fun. I enjoyed talking about football. If it's not real estate, it's football. So
I got a one-track mind too, man. It's like IT and football. Sure. I don't know I got nothing else. I got nothing for you.
You know what I'm saying? So
well, we talk a lot of it. So come on anytime you want, because we're always talking.
I may take you up on that for real. So yeah, just keep me posted. You need to fill in a spot, man. Give me a shout.
I love it. Thank you so much, man. And as always, everybody, let's fucking go.